Hi guys, Carissa here with Inky Fairy Designs, and today I want to show you how I created this little scene, coloring it with Copic markers. At the Greeting Farm for the month of August, we have our Farm Fresh Challenge, and in August we're doing scenes, creative scenes. So there's all sorts of little sets that you can use from the Greeting Farm that have all these cute little images to kind of create little scenes. You can use the Anya characters, you can use any of the little stamp characters. Today I decided to create like a little selfie kind of Polaroid look. So I die cut a little rectangle, and then I die cut another rectangle out of this masking paper and masked off the bottom with some washi tape to create a little square where I'm going to create my picture. So I wanted to have this little Anya from the You're Spectacular stamp set in the foreground, like she's taking a selfie, and I don't know, I've done this where I've only taken like half my head and trying to get kind of like the background of wherever I am. So that's kind of what my inspiration was behind this. So I'm adding the little glasses on her because they're just too cute not to add. And now I'm going to add some buildings around her. So in order to do that, I had to create a little mask. Now, since I only have a portion of her head, I don't have to cut out the entire mask. So I'm just cutting out the portion that I will need around that side of her head and her hair. And so I'm using just some masking paper that I have. I can't even tell you what brand it is because it's like this giant roll that I've had for years and years and years. I am working on Copic Express It paper, and I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black ink because I am planning on coloring with Copics. So the little buildings come from a stamp set called Main Street. All of these are available at the Greeting Farm. I'll have links below and on my blog. And I had already created these masks for a different project, and I saved them with the stamp set, which is always a great thing to do. That way you don't have to cut out masks every single time, and they'll stay sticky for a while. So I used the buildings that I already had masks for. Now I'm using the trees from that same stamp set to just kind of create a little bit of some scenery in the background. And then from another stamp set called Up, these clouds came from. So there's two large clouds, or there's a large cloud and a small cloud in that set, and I used both of those. And you can see I'm stamping off, off the side, because when we're doing selfies we don't get everything, so some things are going to be cut off. So I'm going to lift off the mask. I'm debating whether I want to color with the mask on or with the mask off. So I decided to take the mask off. In hindsight, I would have done this part with the mask on because I could have just gone around it with my pencil with the mask on and probably got a cleaner, closer pencil line. But I wanted to mark off kind of like where the edges were so that I knew where I didn't want my coloring to go out of, because I wanted it to look like a little Polaroid. So I'm starting with my coloring of the sky. I did this just because I was just experimenting kind of with this and making sure that it was going to be the look that I wanted. And before coloring all of her and everything, I felt like if I put the sky in, I could get an idea of how it was going to look in the end. So that's what I did. You can see all of the colors at the top, like left-hand corner. I put the caps there as I'm coloring so that you can see all the colors that I'm using. When I color, I know it has been a while since I've done any coloring videos. I've been putting up a few here and there lately, trying to get back into the groove of things. But I always color light to dark and then back down to my lightest, and then sometimes I feel like I need to deepen up any shadows or anything. I'll go back to my darkest and back to my lightest. So that's pretty much my order. So that's how I try to lay out my markers. So my lightest is E000, and then on and on. And you can see here I'm trying to figure out like that little bottom portion in the corner. There's like a little bit of something, but I wasn't sure what part of the stamp that was, if that was her clothes. Ended up being her arm and her neck, so I just colored that skin color. So I put the little stamp backing up against it, which helps me to kind of figure out what part of the stamp is actually on my little frame. So I started with her skin. I did her glasses very light. I used BG10 for all of the like glass part of this picture. So her glasses, the windows in the buildings, those are all done by BG10. I don't think I actually put the cap up there for you. And then for the shutters and the roof of the other building, I used E15 and then E18. So that's what I used for those shutters. And so those are the markers that I'm going to use for this building. I have a chow in that color, and so obviously the cap does not have the number on there, so just frame shot it for you. But I'm basically just kind of lightly coloring in these buildings. I am shading, but like one or two, maybe 3 colors. Not very intense shading because they're small images and it's just a small area. I wanted to give a little bit of depth, but it wasn't like my main focus. My main focus is her hair, which is why it's the last thing that I'm doing, because I want to make sure everything else is looking good before I put that time into her hair. I always love coloring the Anya hairs because they're such large areas and you can just have a lot of fun with them, and so that's why I left her hair for the last thing, because I do tend to spend a lot of time on them. I think I had about 50 minutes of footage that I condensed into this video. I sped it up like 4 times the speed of my coloring, so it does take time to color even just a small little area. Masking, kind of figuring out where I want everything, and this was the second try. The first time I put like just washi tape around it, and then when I pulled it off it ripped, so that kind of was a bummer. So masking paper is much better because it's designed to come off your paper and not ruin it. So I'm just finishing up the buildings. Here is where I'm going to do those little trees, which I think turned out super cute. I kind of did a little bit of a combination of just regular coloring and then like a little bit of dots and squiggles just to give a little bit of texture to those trees so they weren't just flat. Kind of looks like little leaves back there. But then I blended it all out with that lightest color. And then for the clouds, I definitely wanted to give those some depth, you know, some shading. So I pulled out my warm grays. I think these are great because the sky is a cool gray or a cool color, and the warm gray just kind of gives it a little bit more dimension. So super cute. And then I blend that all out with the Zero. So Zero, the color Splendor, is really great when you're coloring like anything that you want to look white, because you can add all that color and shading, and then you can kind of soften it up with that colorless blender. And so I'm just adding a little bit more color to the sky now that I'm pretty happy and committed here. It was a little bit hard to make sure I wasn't going out of the line that I had for my Polaroid. You can see I probably used the colorless blender to clean up some of those edges, and then I'm just adding a little bit of shading around her head to just make her pop a little bit. I probably could have gone darker, honestly. There I just have a multi-liner, a Copic multi-liner, and I'm just trying to clean up those edges around to make sure they go all the way to where my Polaroid frame is, because I don't know. Like I said, if I would have kept that masking on, I think I would have had a cleaner pencil line. But since I was kind of eyeballing it with the ruler, it wasn't as clean or as close to what I actually stamped and masked. But it works. I think it turned out cute. So here's the hair. I decided to go brunette, and using the E70s, so E74, E77, E79, and then to give a little bit more of a darker, deepen up my darkest shading, shadows, all that, I pulled in the warm gray, the darkest one that I have, which is W9. And I think that goes really well with these colors. And just kind of gives it a little bit more depth and texture. For my hair, I always use this flicking motion, starting with my lightest color, and you can see I left a really bright, like, white area, and then as I layer, as I go to my dark one, as I go back to my light one, I slowly fill that in so that it remains as a highlight, but I don't lose it. So I try to leave a lot of that white area when I first go in, and then I'll slowly fill it in as I continue to add the strands and the texture. And I just think the flicking really creates that kind of look of hair. So I just think it's cute. It's not perfect, but I try to follow the lines of the stamp. Here I am coming in with a Staedtler Triplus fine liner. Saying that totally wrong, but I wanted to outline that darker now that I'm finished with all of my coloring, just to give it more of a frame that it would have as a Polaroid. I'm using a sentiment from the stamp set You're Spectacular that says "see you around," because I think it's cute when you're taking all these selfies and you're posting them on Instagram and you're like saying "here I am," and I just thought it'd be super cute on this card. It kind of fit well with what I had created. So my camera died there, but I just made a simple card using a little clothespin, popped up that scene on some pattern paper. That's it. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and let me know that you liked it. And I hope you'll join us in our Farm Fresh challenge at the Greeting Farm going on for the month of August.